Good evening, Factor audience. We are mixing things up on tonight's rundown, for we have a very special guest in the studio. I want to introduce to all of you a very remarkable young man, Tyler Spierdowis of North Carolina. Thank you, Mr. O'Reilly. As he said, I am a senior in high school and lucky enough to have received a chance to appear on tonight's program. It is our pleasure, Mr. Spierdowis. So, Tyler is here tonight to talk with me about my recent book, Killing Lincoln. As you all know, I want that book in the hands of every high school student in America, and Tyler seems to agree with me. So, we are going to spend some time talking about why tonight. What made you initially want to read my book, Mr. Spierdowis? Well, Bill, I am a frequent viewer of your show and had seen it come up several times, and being the lover of history that I am, I decided that I wanted to learn of the detailed account of Lincoln's assassination. And detailed it is. I just want the audience to know that this book truly is a riveting thriller and not just a monotonous account of occurrences. Well, thank you, and this is exactly as I intended the book to be. A fast-paced thriller, yet 100% factually accurate. What parts of the book really stood out to you and what did you like? Your usage of effective imagery in the book was truly outstanding. The images portrayed at the Battle of Sailor's Creek were marvelously gripping and heart-wrenching. And you make usage of this imagery throughout the entire book, which I thoroughly enjoyed. However, I want to get back to the real reason I wanted to come here tonight, and I believe some of the reasons that you wrote the book in the first place. So much of our American history is miserably misunderstood and misremembered. Would you agree? Absolutely. Misinformation is something I try to combat here on the Factor daily, and is one of the reasons I wrote the book. Indeed, John Wilkes Booth, one of the most notorious murderers in history, is remembered as merely a crazed Southern sympathizer who rashly decided to murder our 16th president. However, he was no rash man at all. He was incredibly famous and one of the most highly regarded actors of the time. You're right. John Wilkes Booth was an incredibly calculating and meticulous planner when it came to murdering Lincoln. He was not rash at all, and he truly believed that what he was doing was right. Booth truly believed in the South's cause and saw Lincoln as the #1 enemy to mankind. So, in truth, we really cannot fault Booth as a horrible man. He was merely fighting for a cause that he saw was right. A cause which almost half the country at the time could sympathize with. That was one of the remarkable things about your book. It really gets deep into the mind of Booth and probes his very being and persona. The book gives a gripping account of the assassination and escape through the killer's eyes, which was quite an interesting vantage point. However, besides somewhat vindicating Booth, I believe one of your goals in writing the book was to show the world really what kind of a man Abraham Lincoln was. Indeed, it was, Tyler. Really, that was my main goal. In a time when I believe our country is absolutely panting for leadership, I wanted to portray what true leadership and sacrifice for the greater good was and looked like. Lincoln, in my opinion, was the greatest president we have ever had, so I wrote the book after him. What I want to know is what you took away from the book about Lincoln. Well, first and foremost, I learned a little bit about the life of Lincoln before he became the president. However, I had no idea the kind of struggles that Lincoln endured while trying to reunite the Union. As you show in your book, the man basically aged 20 or 30 years in little over 4 years in office. The Congress largely despised him, 1 because of his persistence of fighting the war, and 2 because of his persistence on lenience toward readmitting the South into the Union. The man truly put the nation before himself in every regard. Indeed he did, Tyler. He made unbelievable sacrifices which at times made his popularity among constituents remarkably low, but he knew that what he was doing was right. One of the other very interesting things that I took away from your book as well was the fact that Lincoln never thought he would be assassinated, no matter the threats. He truly believed that Americans would always display their frustrations in the ballot box, and not in violence. That is until, as you put in your book, he had a nightmare one night, which he had frequently. But, that one nightmare, where he looked at his own dead corpse, I believe he knew he did not have much longer. Do you agree? Yes, Tyler, I do. And, I didn't outright state it in the book, but I certainly hinted at it. I do believe that Lincoln thought he didn't have much longer to live after the war ended, and he had that dream. He kept that stack of death threats in his desk as a constant reminder of it, but his true reason for it we will never really know. And, of course, he ended up paying the ultimate price for his country. Your account of the murder, by the way, was truly riveting. My heart nearly skipped a beat when I read up to the scene of the murder. I wanted the readers to be able to imagine what Booth was feeling at the time, and the effects it had on the rest of the people. I know that Lincoln's murder nearly plunged the country back into the Civil War, which would have ruined everything that Lincoln worked toward. And that gets back to the leadership that Lincoln portrayed. I want every single high school student to read this book and learn what true leadership is. I want them to see the lack of it that we have in the White House today and take the initiative to make a difference and try to help the country. I don't mean to knock Obama, for I absolutely respect the office of the presidency, but one cannot argue the fact that he is an abject failure in terms of leadership. No, Tyler. It is inflammatory, but true, and the reason I wrote the book. Obama is not a bad guy, but the wrong person to be leading the country at this time. I want everyone to take away from this book the realization of the gap we have in the White House today and take that initiative to elect the proper officials to start to turn this country around. The message is pure, Bill, and something I sympathize with greatly. We are running out of time, but I want to thank you immensely for coming on tonight and sharing some of your thoughts and concerns. And also thank you so much for reading my book and trying to share its message. It is absolutely my pleasure, Bill. Thanks for having me, and you need to try and get that book on the list for high school reading assignments around the country. We are trying, Tyler. Moving along, tonight we are going to spend some time talking about the Tim Tebow controversy that's been swirling around. Goldberg is on that coming up next.